My name is Susan Sutherland, and I'm a fiber artist, and my medium is rug hooking. I've been rug hooking for about 45 years, and I decided I also had a special birthday coming up, and I thought, what better way to celebrate 45 years is to have an exhibit. And so I decided to call it the Pull of the Loop, because it's all it is. It's one little stitch. Why did I start hooking? I visited a friend back in 1979, and I lived in North Gore, Ontario, and she lived down the street, and we just moved in, and she invited me for coffee, and she had this really interesting piece of fiber art on her wall, and I'd never seen anything like it in my life. And I thought, I have to learn to do it. And she said to me, well, come and visit us. We meet every week in the afternoon and in Merrickville. And of course, I was working, so I thought, well, how am I going to do that? So I decided to use a sick day and went and saw what they were doing, and I managed to get the teacher, and she said, if you can get 6 people that will hook, I'll teach you. So that's what we did. It's a North American settler craft. It's for what quilts were for the beds. The extra pieces of material were hooked into old burlap backing, perhaps from potato sacks or coffee sacks, and people made rugs for the floors. And it is really a North American settler craft. And I think that is so exciting. That really empowers me to know that something that was done over 160 years ago, we're still doing today. You want to know what the technique of rug hooking, it's one loop. And it's what we use is a hook that looks very similar to a crochet hook, except that there's a large handle on one end. And then we use long strips of fabric, usually wool, doesn't have to be anymore, and can be used long strips of yarn, or anything that's long in strips that we want to pull through, because you're just pulling through one loop into the backing. The backing that we use is either linen, can be burlap. I've often gone down to the Baden coffee house, and they have their leftover bags from their coffee beans, and they work beautifully, and we can hook into that. And that appeals to me too, because it's reusing things. And we find today is that we're looking for different ways to reuse clothing, which is what our great grandmothers used. And we're now getting back into that, mainly because we have such a supply of used clothing, and the costs of wool fabric and yarn and so on is really getting out of sight. My earliest piece was called the Jordan Schoolhouse. And the reason I did it is because that's the piece that inspired me to take up rug hooking. But from then on, I started doing all sorts of things. We were very lucky in the late 70s, early 80s, because the Ontario Hook and Craft Guild had regional workshops. So people like me that was working, we could meet on the weekend and learn different techniques. So that really helped. So I honed my craft that way. And then as I got further into my career, worked more part-time, I was able to then get more creative in my rug hooking. My most favorite is my self-portrait of the Sandhill crane. And mainly because it says the party doesn't start until the redhead turns up. And I kind of hope that's me. I like whimsy in my pieces, so that one really, it appeals to me. Some of my other favorites I have given away. And so I can't show them because they're in different parts of the country. Another favorite that I have, and I did during COVID, was a group of women practicing yoga. And I called it Trying to Stay in Balance. And I've really enjoyed hooking that piece because it really calmed my mind. Rug hooking kept me sane during COVID, that's for sure. It really is yoga for the mind. It really calms you down. And I had a friend that teaches grade 7 and 8 kids. And she said the boys loved it. It calmed them down. And, we don't think about that. When I was growing up, perhaps I needed to be calmed down, I don't know. But kids today, they've got so many things that make them anxious and so on. And rug hooking can really settle the mind. And you're just you and the hook and the loop. And that's all there is. And it's really a lovely experience. I encourage everybody to do it.